Hello friends, on November 11th, 1994, an auction was taking place in New York for a 500-year-old handwritten book, and even the world's wealthiest people were part of that auction. But at that time, no one knew that this book would become one of the most expensive books in the world. Because there was a person among the bidders for that book who was not present there during the auction, but he wanted to acquire this book at any cost and was placing his bid via phone. And finally, that person manages to acquire the book for $30.8 million. In today's terms, that amount is approximately 4 billion rupees. Friends, the person bidding over the phone was Bill Gates, and the book's name is Codex Leicester, a 500-year-old handwritten manuscript of only 72 pages written in mirror writing from right to left. But why was Bill Gates so interested in this manuscript? What was so special about the Codex? So, what was special about this book? To understand that, you need to know about the mysterious genius who wrote it. Was his entire life and the illustrations he created have been subjects of debate among historians and scientists for 500 years, with many unresolved mysteries. The mother who gave birth to him didn't raise him, and the father who did raise him gave him his name. Did not give, who was prohibited from going to school, who suddenly disappears from the whole world for 2 years, and when he returns, he comes back as a painter, engineer, architect, inventor, and a super genius writing with both hands, whose life strings might have connected for 2 years to another world, aliens, or some parallel universe, or some supernatural power. The person who 500 years ago had already created practical designs for flying machines, parachutes, hand gliders, and cannons for battle, had created them. The person whose Mona Lisa with the unresolved mysterious smile is the world's most expensive painting, an excellent example of his work and his identity, became. Yes, the person who painted this great painting was Leonardo da Vinci. To know in detail about the fascinating, mystery-filled life of this extraordinarily talented and uniquely intelligent, mysterious person, let's begin with their from childhood. On 15th April 1452, a child was born in a small village in Italy, but the mother who gave birth to that child, Caterina, who was a farmer, could not accept her child as hers because she was an unmarried mother. But the child was fortunate that his biological father, who was a distinguished lawyer and notary by profession, he took full responsibility for raising the child and gave the child the name Leonardo. But the right to add the father's name behind this name was not granted because in those times, society did not accept such illegitimate children, and most of the time, such children were abandoned, was not given. Leonardo was born in a village called Vinci in Italy. At that time, often the name of the village or town was added to the name, so Leonardo da Vinci, meaning Leonardo from Vinci. During that period, illegitimate children were not given the right to education along with regular children. Was not granted. Leonardo never went to school, but he was taught some basic reading and writing and some basic math by his father's younger brother, who was very fond of Leonardo and had a great love for nature. Perhaps this is why Leonardo also developed a keen interest in nature. From childhood, he considered the world around him his school. Had started doing so. He would spend hours studying trees, plants, animals, and birds flying in the sky, and would also try to draw them. They used to do. In 1466, when Leonardo turned 14, his father, seeing his interest in art, sent him to Florence to learn art at the studio of a very famous artist and sculptor, Andrea del Verrocchio, where Leonardo learned the intricacies of painting as well as making stone and metal sculptures. Leonardo studied painting, sculpture, and various other subjects here for 10 years. It is said that when the time came for Leonardo to leave Verrocchio's studio upon completing his education, Verrocchio gave him a final assignment, and for this assignment, Leonardo, he painted the figure of an angel in a painting called The Baptism of Christ. It is said the figure was so beautiful that his master Verrocchio vowed upon seeing it that he would never paint again in his life. After departing from Verrocchio's workshop in 1476, Leonardo began his work independently in Florence. And during this time, he met a 17-year-old male model named Jacopo Saltarelli, who was also a male escort. Being often seen with this young man, Leonardo faced a serious accusation of having homosexual relations. It was serious because at that time in Florence, homosexuality was considered a serious crime, and if found guilty, the punishment could have been the death penalty or lifelong exile. Because of this accusation, Leonardo was kept in custody for several weeks, but due to his father's and his own good political connections, he was acquitted of these charges. Some historians speculate that Leonardo might have been homosexual because he neither married nor had any relationships with women. There was never any mention of them having romantic relationships. Their notebooks and sketches also show a deep interest in the male body. Some believe that Leonardo perhaps never publicly accepted this due to fear of society. Leonardo was significantly affected mentally and socially due to the accusations of homosexuality, and they distanced themselves from public life for some time. Or you could say that for 2 years they mysteriously disappeared, and there's no significant mention in any of their notes about what they did or where they disappeared during these 2 years. It seems as if someone removed those pages from the book of their life. Have been removed. After returning from this 2-year disappearance, Leonardo had completely changed. His way of thinking and perspective on things had changed. Now, as good a painter and sculptor as Da Vinci was, he returned as an equally good engineer, architect, scientist, inventor, a deep thinker, and a super genius who could write with both hands. They could draw with one hand while writing with the other. Instead of writing straight in their notebook, they began writing in right-to-left mirror writing, which was nothing short of a marvel. They were now such an extraordinary artist whose perspective was scientific. Or perhaps now they were such a scientist or inventor who also had a deep understanding of art. They were the first person to bring art and science together. Now, he wanted to understand everything in nature with great detail and a scientific perspective. He used very unusual methods to learn and understand things. Leonardo wrote in his notebook that to understand the structure of the human body in detail, he dissected more than 30 corpses, removed all organs meticulously, and separated those fine parts that surround these nerves. All the body sketches shown on the screen were made by Leonardo. 500 years ago, this gentleman made 240 sketches of the bones, muscles, nerves, and organs present in the human body, and also wrote 13,000 words on it. Who depicted the human body in such detail that the sketches match exactly with today's modern science, even though machines like X-rays did not exist at that time. He even created some sketches of the digestive system and the reproductive system, and especially for these sketches, what he might have done. Only Vinci knew this. He had begun to think so deeply that to show a smile or sadness on a painting's lips, his thinking was no longer limited to the harmony of colors. Instead, he thought about which facial muscles work to create the expressions that bring about a person's smile or sadness. And certainly for this reason, the mysterious smile of Mona Lisa in one of the world's most expensive and famous paintings has been a subject of research for researchers for 500 years. He used brushes thinner than a hair to create this painting. 500 years ago, using unique styles like optical illusion and smoke tone techniques, Da Vinci created a painting that, when viewed, gives the impression that there is depth in Mona Lisa's eyes, and those eyes follow the viewer. And creating something like that from the fusion of science and art in that era was nothing short of a miracle. It took Da Vinci 14 years to make it, and even 500 years later, despite numerous studies from every angle with current technology in modern science, many unresolved mysteries of this painting remain mysteries. Very few of Leonardo da Vinci's paintings and sculptures have survived to this day because she painted a limited number of paintings, and one of the most famous among them is The Last Supper. In this painting, the emotional expression and physical gestures of each disciple are depicted so meticulously that people are still amazed when they see it. An incredibly interesting fact that astonishes scientists about many of his famous paintings is that if these paintings are overlapped using software, then this secret code, it suggests a connection to some alien civilization. After his obscurity, the drawings made by Leonardo were no longer just ordinary drawings. Now, his sketches, featuring flying machines and complex mechanical structures, seemed like a unique experiment in a new level of art and science. Which was like a fantasy for people of that time, because Leonardo was depicting technology that would come hundreds of years later, and he had so much faith in his sketches as if he himself had experienced or seen this technology in the future. They were making maps in the 16th century as if they were taken by today's satellite images. 500 years ago, this gentleman made a map of Italy that seems like it was made from above the city. But in that era, there were no airplanes, drones, or satellites to see the city from above. How Vinci accomplished this? Only he. Uno knew. Friends, the Wright brothers invented the airplane in 1903, and our Shivkar Bapuji Talpade in 1895 was available. But Da Vinci had already created a complete model of how flying in the air could be possible 500 years ago, and for this, he studied the entire process of birds flying very carefully and illustrated it frame by frame. What is noteworthy here is that in those times, he didn't have any slow-motion cameras. Was not there. Leonardo also designed a place for a person to sit inside this flying machine. The world saw the first helicopter in 1940, but Leonardo had already prepared a full design of how a helicopter will fly and how it works 500 years earlier. Leonardo also designed some other things like a flapping wing flying machine, a parachute, and a light hand glider, which were based on the principles of aeronautics and physics. But due to the lack of technology at that time, they couldn't turn any of these into reality. However, on June 26, 2000, a person named Adrian Nicholas made a parachute by looking at Vinci's sketches, and then Nicholas jumped from a height of 10,000 without any safety and succeeded in landing safely on the ground. During Leonardo's lifetime, when Italy was engulfed in civil war, Leonardo worked for different armies and commanders in Italy, and during this time, designed many weapons that were centuries ahead of their time. The design of Paladev's chariot in the movie Bahubali also seems inspired by this design made by Leonardo 500 years ago, which has weapons attached on both the front and back. It was difficult to attack this chariot from both the front and the back, and anyone approaching it would be sliced like carrots and radishes. This object, which looked like a turtle or a UFO, it's a prototype of a modern tank. Its outer shell was like a turtle shell, and inside 4 men could sit and target the enemy, with cannons mounted all around. There was a gun made that could fire 33 times at once, which was nothing short of a marvel for that time. This suit, designed by Leonardo, enabled divers to go deep into the water and stay there for a long time, which was a prototype of the modern scuba suit. And friends, not only that, he also tried to design the world's first robot. Friends, besides this, Leonardo also mentioned generating energy from sunlight in his manuscript, which is considered the beginning of modern solar power. He spent the last few years of his life as a royal painter, engineer, and architect for King Francis I of France. They had received such a beautiful palace to live in. But some of Leonardo's last pages indicate that he was quite unhappy in his final days. Leonardo always regretted that he couldn't complete many paintings, among them the Mona Lisa. There was one. In 1519, at the age of 67, Leonardo da Vinci passed away in France. Leonardo used to say that knowledge is power. He always had an unparalleled thirst for learning. He believed that everything in nature is interconnected. It has happened, and to understand it, we need to study nature deeply. Should be. He believed that art and science cannot be separated. According to him, art is the highest form of science, as it gives us a way to see and understand the world. Friends, Leonardo da Vinci left many unsolved mysteries behind. His extraordinary and unique intelligence and level of thinking increasing so suddenly after anonymity. This was not an ordinary event. Was Leonardo truly in contact with another world or aliens? Or did he time travel to see the future hundreds of years ahead? Or was all the information present in the universe? They received it from a center, which Nikola Tesla often mentioned. I had uploaded a very interesting video about this on GVG, which you also liked a lot. And those of you who haven't seen it, Do watch it.